Huge breaking news today. There is another twist in this Declan Rice saga. Manchester City have entered the race and a bid is seemingly imminent for the West Ham and England midfielder. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, it's the news that we all expected. We all knew was potentially coming. But finally, it seems that Manchester City are entering this race to sign Declan Rice, and he seems that they may be more likely to take him from the grasp of Arsenal, who have seemingly been in pole position to take the England midfielder from West Ham to Arsenal in this transfer window. City have seemingly swooped in at the 11th hour and are seemingly ready to take him right from their grasp. We're going to be talking all about this Declan Rice situation. We're going to be talking about Declan Rice, Man City, Arsenal, everything else in between. But before we go any further and talking about all of that, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things always and forever be greatly appreciated. And of course, I encourage you all to get involved in the comment section. I'm sure you have lots of interesting thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it on this particular story down below in that comment section. So do get involved down there. But for right now, let's get into this story. Let's get into this Declan Rice situation. Like I say, it's no surprise this is happening. This is nothing new. This is nothing shocking. This is not new at all. We all knew Manchester City were keeping tabs on this situation. We all knew Manchester City were keeping Declan Rice on their radar. Their interest is something that we've talked about a fair amount, and anybody else and everybody else has been talking about it for a fair amount, because we all knew City were interested in Declan Rice, but we always knew that Arsenal were in pole position. Arsenal were making all of the groundwork. Arsenal were laying everything down to try and sign him, but it seems that after playing around with their food for long enough, City are ready to swoop in and take him right from their grasp. And it's beautifully poetic in a way because, you know, similar to how the Premier League season's gone, City were behind Arsenal in that race. Arsenal were in pole position to take the title, their first Premier League title in 19 years potentially, and City were playing catch up. And after playing around and messing around a little bit, City gradually caught up with them and overtook them and ended up winning the Premier League title for the third year in a row, beating Arsenal to the punch and beating Arsenal, who had led the way for a large part of that race. They're taking that battle from the Premier League now to the transfer window, and after leading the race for so long again, Arsenal have seemingly played around for too much and are now looking likely, in my opinion, to be losing the race to sign Declan Rice to Manchester City. Once again, it's beautifully poetic and art-like in its own way. Scary, of course it is. Man City, if they get him, reinforce and strengthen their squad yet again. But again, weirdly from the outside looking in, a bit poetic and a bit art-like in terms of obviously their battle earlier on in the season and the title race to obviously what's happening now in this transfer window. Obviously, like I say, we knew about this from weeks ago, but the breaking news really came today that City's interest was concrete and imminent. I first saw it from Damasio, who took to Twitter to say that Man City strongly joined the race for Declan Rice from West Ham, alongside Arsenal. Man City working on a bid, and this was followed up by David Ornstein. Now, if you know David Ornstein, of course, he's been dropping some big nuclear bombs on this transfer window, on this transfer market, in regards to some certain transfer sagas and stories and players. He is the man in the know when it comes to all things Premier League. He is the top tier journalist, in my opinion. And he took to Twitter to say that Manchester City expected to submit an offer to West Ham for Declan Rice today. Man City have serious interest in recruiting 24-year-old England midfielder, and it is anticipated a formal bid will be lodged to rival Arsenal for signing. Now, we all knew this was going to happen, and we know that West Ham knew this was going to happen. We all knew of City's interest, and West Ham, I think, were holding out for City to enter the race, Because, of course, when that does happen, it means a bidding war ensues, and it means a tug of war of sorts between these two teams is going to enforce, and West Ham can sit back and they can just take the most attractive and best offer for them. They knew this was going to happen, we knew this was going to happen, and this is all on Arsenal. This is all on Arsenal because we all know that they have messed around with this for far too long. They've had plenty of weeks, plenty of months of negotiations, of talks, of trying to sweet talk West Ham into a deal. They knew what West Ham were after, they knew the structure of the deal that West Ham were after, yet they still tried to lowball West Ham in their negotiations. And they messed around, and they played around, and now it seems a much more hungrier and ruthless shark is about to take food off of that particular shark's plate. In this analogy, rice is the meal. Well, it is anyway, but you know what I mean. Declan Rice is the meal. Arsenal is a young shark that is a wannabe killer shark, a wannabe great white. The actual great white is Manchester City, and they are swooping in at the 11th hour to take that food right off of Arsenal's plate, right out of their grasp. And let's face it, City are the bigger pull than Arsenal. Now, that isn't to say that there isn't a slim possibility that Arsenal could still sign Declan Rice. Of course, they still are in pole position right now. Things can easily change. And of course, maybe Declan Rice is more interested in staying in London rather than going to Manchester. But think about what City can offer him over Arsenal. The chance of playing under a better manager in Pep Guardiola. The chance of growing and evolving and continuing to get better under one of the best or the best manager currently in world football, in Pep Guardiola. The chance of playing with some bigger and better players. Arsenal's players are very, very good, don't get me wrong, but City's are clearly and obviously better, considering obviously the season that we've just seen and from seasons gone by of City dominating the Premier League. The bigger stage, the Champions League. Now I get it that Arsenal are in the Champions League as well this season, but given the sustainability of the two teams and the reliability of the two teams, you'd probably argue that City have got more of a chance of being in the Champions League for many more years to come. Arsenal got into it this season, and rightfully so, well deserved. But there's no guarantee that they'll get into it next season, or the season after, or the season after. Whereas for City, nothing's ever a guarantee, but they are very much more likely, and more of a guarantee in a way, of getting Champions League football for years to come. Getting the Champions League next season, and then the year after, and then the year after, and then the year after, and being a permanent fixture in that Champions League competition for many more years to come. Not a guarantee, but more of a possibility and a likelihood. The same way that trophies are as well. Declan Rice surely is leaving West Ham in pursuit of trophies, in pursuit of creating a Premier League and footballing legacy for himself. He has got more of an opportunity and more of a chance of doing that at Man City, winning a number of trophies like they are doing right now and helping City continue that trend rather than go to Arsenal, who, yes, may win a few trophies here and there if they continue this upwards trajectory and this project that they're on, but the likelihood is they won't win as many as City, or they won't win as big as what Manchester City might either. So that's where the pull is, again, for Man City. And lastly, money. Financial-wise, City could probably blow Arsenal out of the water. They're messing around with this deal as it is in terms of, obviously, the financial package to West Ham and the structure of the deal and all of that stuff. City could blow Arsenal out of the water, whether it be the transfer fee for him or whether it might be personal terms. And along with personal terms, like I said, you've got all them other factors that I talked about, the manager, the players, the Champions League, the trophies. All of that adds up all of it adds up to be a bigger and better package as a whole for Declan Rice to go on and see out the rest of his career as a City player, maybe even become a City legend, win a number of trophies, become one of England's most decorated players, and go on and leave your legacy. That is what is at stake here for Declan Rice, and this is why a lot of players do go to Manchester City. And then given the choice of Arsenal or City, I think a lot of players in this right now, in the modern day, right now, would go to City rather than him. I think Declan Rice is a fantastic player, and I've been a guy who's been critical of Rice in the past. I didn't think he was that good when he first burst onto the scene. I didn't get what all the hype was about. I didn't get what all the hope and optimism was about. But over the past few years in particular, I have seen this guy grow into one of the best midfielders in the game today. One of the best midfielders in the Premier League. I think he's fantastic. I think he's brilliant. Everything he brings to that squad is going to impact and improve Man City in some way, shape or form. And that is saying a lot, considering that obviously City right now are brilliant. And it's mad to say that because City have just coming off winning a treble season. But he reinforces and strengthens that squad. And particularly in that midfield area, a guy who is an absolute engine, can just run up and down the pitch for 90 minutes, whether it be box to box or whether it be sat slightly deeper as a more ball-winning midfielder. He covers a lot of ground. He's a genuine leader on that pitch. He is a brilliant midfielder, whether it be a more defensive style, whether it be from his aerial presence and his aggressiveness and his tenacity. He has got everything in his locker to be a brilliant number 6 or number 8, depending on how and where Guardiola feels best to play him. He can just sit deep and he can just win the ball back and give the ball to the more creative outlets of the Man City team, the likes of your Phil Fodens, your Jack Grealish's, your Kevin De Bruyne's, or he can be box to box and he can get in that box and maybe score a few more goals. He can also defend as well. He's got all them kind of attributes. He's not the most creative, but he doesn't need to be when like I say, he's got them at other outlets at City at his disposal to help him in that aspect as well. So, for me, a phenomenal player, a brilliant player that's going to improve Manchester City. And of course, like I say, he's a leader right now and he's only 24 years of age and he can become an even better leader and a better player going forward with everything that I talked about, which makes City a brilliant package overall for Rice to go to. And he can solidify that place in midfield for the next 6 to 8 years to come. He can play alongside Rodri. He can play alongside John Stones if obviously needs be. The depth that adds to that City side is incredible and insane, as well as the quality on top of it is immense. So yes, Declan Rice to City would be a phenomenal move for City, for Rice, and for everybody involved. But what about from Arsenal's point of view? Well, Arsenal are going to be looking set to lose their top target. Arsenal are probably going to lose their top target, a player that they spent so much time and effort in to try and sign. They look like they're going to lose him. And I wouldn't want to be Edu or Richard Garlick right now. Them two have been leading this charge, it seems, for Declan Rice. They've been trying to negotiate with West Ham and they've messed around for way too long. And now a great white shark is ready to pounce. Well, not pounce, but I guess pounce is still the word. A hungrier lion is ready to pounce. Let's use that one. A hungrier lion is ready to pounce. A much more ruthless lion is ready to pounce on another lion's food that is playing with it and messing around with it. And at the end of the day, that hungrier lion is going to come along and pounce on that food and take it for himself and not care about that other lion. And that is essentially what is happening here. Arsenal have messed around for too long. And let's face it, there are already some Arsenal fans that are growing tired of this saga. There are already some Arsenal fans that are bored and just want this saga to be over with. If they lose out on Declan Rice, and with the news of this happening, allegedly Chelsea are also planning on making an imminent move for Moises Caicedo. That's their second target of Arsenal's. If they miss out on their top 2 targets this summer in that midfield area, and they only get Havertz, who, by the way, only has signed for Arsenal because Arsenal were, in my opinion, dumb enough to pay the 65 million transfer fee that Chelsea wanted. I wouldn't want to be them two right now. I wouldn't want to be Richard Garlick or Edu right now, because Arsenal fans are going to want their heads on pikes. Seriously. Lots of weeks and months of negotiations to come up with nothing but to basically wrap up and hand Declan Rice over to Manchester City. That's what I can see from this. That's what I can envision and see from this. I think he's a brilliant signing for City, but Arsenal have really messed this up. They need to either move extremely quickly in the next 24 hours or risk losing him to City, because Rice may want to stay in London and join Arsenal, and if that's great, that's good for him. He can move on from there. He can probably become Arsenal captain within the next year or two, and he can go on to have a solid enough career as an Arsenal player. But if he wants to be a Premier League legend, if he wants to leave a huge Premier League legacy, be one of the most decorated English players in world football, in my opinion, he's got to move to Manchester City, where trophies are more of a likelihood and more of a guarantee, and he can evolve and grow and elevate his game as a player, playing under one of the best managers in world football, playing around some of the best players in world football, playing on the grandest and biggest stage in club football, the Champions League, and of course he's going to make a fair amount of money from it as well. That's just my thoughts. Those are just my opinions. Everything that I spoke about in this video is purely and simply from me. But I want to know what you guys think. I want to know what you guys' thoughts are, your comments, your opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it on this particular transfer story, or in regards to Declan Rice, talking about Rice and everything else along with that. Will make it a great and interesting reading down below in the comments section, I'm sure. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way out if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and probably greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will see you all again soon in another video.